Many machine parts are simply stamped or machined out of solid metal. But parts with complex shapes or thin walls can't be made that way. They have to be cast, using a technique called lost wax process casting. It takes anywhere from a week to a month to manufacture a cast metal part, depending on its complexity. The first step is to inject wax into an aluminium die, which is essentially a mould, whose cavity is in the shape of the part. This creates a wax model slightly larger than the finished part will be. They'll use this model to make a mould out of ceramics. That also has to be larger than the finished part, because metal shrinks as it cools. Once the wax model is ready, a code is stamped, indicating to foundry workers what type of metal is to be used. Next, using a hot iron, they attach wax components to create what's called a metal delivery system, channels that will funnel the molten metal into the mould's cavity. Next, they dip this wax assembly into a ceramic solution called slurry. This is done by hand to prevent imperfections that would cause defects in the casting. To strengthen the slurry, it's coated in a fine zirconium sand. An automated process repeats the coating with coarser sand until the ceramic shell surrounding the wax is 7 mm thick. This takes 5 days. Now the ceramic-covered wax assembly is ready for what's called the de-wax. Workers place it in a hot steam chamber called an autoclave for 10 minutes. This melts the wax right out of the shell, creating a ceramic mould whose cavity is in the shape of the part. Once the mould has dried out, workers can begin to cast the part. First they put the cold mould into an oven and heat it up for 2 to 3 hours. This prevents the mould from cracking from the shock of coming into contact with molten metal at a scalding 1200 degrees Celsius. Molten metal is poured into the mould's cavity, which then cools and hardens at room temperature. That takes 2 hours for aluminium, 4 to 5 hours for steel. Once the metal has cooled and solidified, the ceramic mould is broken using a vibrating hammer. The metal delivery system is sawn off. The surface is then ground to a smooth finish. The final step is to make sure the part is the exact dimensions specified in the technical drawing. This is called sizing. Steel parts have to be heated up in an oven for sizing. Aluminium parts are sized cold. Technicians use a series of tools and presses to measure the part. If it doesn't meet specifications, it's either reworked or simply discarded. Sophisticated equipment, such as this optical comparator, is used to check angles and radii, and this coordinate measuring machine to verify dimensions. Lost wax process casting is used to make metal parts for all types of machines and equipment. Everything from military weapons to snowmobiles.